With the majority of the hull's work now completed and out of the way, the last area to focus on just prior to getting the hull ready for painting is that of the wheels themselves. Just like what was mentioned in the spare tire portion of the video, the Panzerwerk resin wheel set features molded-in lug nuts. The way the set is designed is that you are supplied with a solid resin brake drum, and the hub actually glues to the component in the way you see here. The piece is very nicely detailed. However, due to the functionality in that this component really needs to hold up the weight of the entire model, I feel that the use of adhesives alone is not going to be adequate for this job. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and replace the molded-in lug nuts with that of actual fasteners. Now, just like with the spare tire, I went ahead and drilled out the center portions of the molded-in nuts. What is a nice feature on the Panzerwerk component is that on the reverse side of the piece, you do have the holes that are already centrally mounted to the molded-in fastener. So when it comes time to drill them out, I use a drill press, and with an 1/8 of an inch drill bit, I go ahead and bore out each of the holes that are indicated here. Once the holes are drilled out with a Dremel, I amputate the molded-in section, which will leave for a surface like the way you see it here. With this surface here, it is now ready for me to start modifying the brake drums, like the way you see it here, with that of the corresponding holes. The way I lined the components up was that I put the hubcap over the brake drum, and with a pencil I mark each of the holes. With the drill press again, I drill out the holes all the way through on the brake drum itself. Now for the actual fasteners, I will be utilizing M3x16 cap head screws, and just like on the real vehicle, the threads are going to merge from the brake drum housing. The way this is done is I need to drill out the back portion of the brake drum in order to have the clearance required for me to thread on the fastener so it protrudes from the brake drum in the way you see it. Keep in mind, this portion here will be covered up once mounted to the suspension of the vehicle. The holes you see here are drilled to be an exact fit of the cap head screw, and the holes are drilled on a drill press with a certain depth set so that all of the fasteners are the exact same height and are uniformed once they are installed. This needs to be done to all 4 of the wheels. Once this is accomplished, all of the exposed threads will be uniform in shape, which again will not only add to the accuracy of the model, but will also make mounting on the hub once the model is finished a lot more effortless. And here go the drums now with their fasteners all installed. As you can see, all of the fasteners were bolted into the solid resin to the depth of the hole that was left by the drill press, and as you can see here, all of the fasteners are at a constant height on all of the drums. It leaves for a nice machined look, and again helps with the uniformity when it comes time to the installation of the wheel. With all of the fasteners now mounted, the drums themselves will receive a coat of primer as well as a quick shot of the base coat, and after that they will be mounted to the spindles on the suspension of the vehicle. And here's the spindle with the hub now permanently attached. The hub was primed and painted with its base coat just prior to the insertion onto the suspension. This was done to all 4 of the wheels, and the component is attached to the spindle via an epoxy. The epoxy gives for a nice strong bond. However, due to the way the axle is designed, the wheel can spin completely freely. More information about this is thoroughly discussed in a much earlier project update video where I go over the suspension in more detail. And here's the model with its wheels installed, and it's actually sitting on its suspension under its own weight really for the first time. Due to the model being bounced around a little bit during its construction, there has been some damage on some of the lower extremities of the suspension, but these locations here will be repaired back to full functional order just prior to the painting of the model. With the repairs now completed, let's go ahead and take this opportunity to go over some of the lower hull detailing, as once this model is reorientated right side up, getting visible access to the chassis will not come again. It's also interesting to see the chassis now fully completed with its road wheels to fully go through and appreciate all of the functions and features that are found on the 222 vehicle. Now, it is important to note that all of these features and details I'm going to be talking about now are thoroughly discussed further in an earlier project update video, where the model was at a more previous condition than the way you see it here. But as a quick overview, the 222 armored car is a rear engine powered vehicle. The vehicle is also four-wheel drive. On the real vehicle, underneath this cover plate here would be the engine. The engine then connects to the transmission. Transmission then divvies up power to the differential in the rear, as well as the differential in the front via this very long drive shaft. The drive shaft itself cuts through this center bulkhead. One unique ability of the real 222 and this model here is the fact that the steering is performed on all four of the tires. This is a feature which is found on many other German World War II armored cars of the period, including that of the Puma and the other multi-wheeled German armored cars. This is very different compared to conventional automobiles, in which the rear differential is generally just a solid piece and is not involved in the steering process, and all of the steering is done with the front tires. With the 222, that's not the case. The way the 222 steering is designed and the way it was replicated on this model is that on this bell housing here connects directly to the steering wheel. Emerging from the bell housing is a control arm. This control arm runs its way to the yoke. The yoke here spans out and connects to the two front tires. A portion of the yoke then runs downward along the center span of the hull and into this very important component called the transfer bar. What the transfer bar does is that it switches the mechanical direction of the wheels when turned. If you just have the transfer bar, or if you just have the rod go directly to the rear yoke, when you turn the wheels, they will all turn in the same direction and you will not be able to make a turn properly. What the transfer bar does, it actually switches the direction where if the front tires will turn left, the rear tires will turn right. It sounds very complicated, but it is a very simple premise. Here we have the rod coming from the front, then switches to the opposite side of the vehicle, which then the rod picks up again and enters into the rear yoke. The rear yoke then takes the pivoting energy and wides it off to the two rear tires. In action, the unit looks like this. Here we can get another look. Note the orientation of the wheels when turning. If you notice, they are opposites from each other. Now, in addition to the wheels, the suspension is also fully functional with actual springs. The suspension on the 222 utilizes both springs, 2 for each wheel mount, as well as 2 smaller shock absorbers which would be mounted in the center of the springs. Everything is held center with a pivoting table, which is again fully detailed in the other videos. As you can see, the suspension is fully articulating and is fully independent from each other. This is different to some vehicles, namely that of the Jeeps, in which you have a solid differential and the piece is connected as one unit. On the 222, it's a little bit more elaborate, and the piece are not connected to each other. This type of suspension is very similar to what's found on, say, something like a Humvee or some of the other more modern military vehicles. But it's interesting that in the late 1930s, the Germans were already developing this type of system during that time. Now, with this wheels turning, you can also see that even though the wheels are turning, the suspension is still fully functional. Now, with the quick walkthrough out of the way, the model will be flipped over and the construction can progress. And here's the model now back right side up with its suspension fully repaired. As you can see, the spring articulation works very well and holds up the weight of the model. And the model now can progress further. Moving up from the side hull detailing takes us to some of the last of the upper hull detailing, starting with first this shovel. The shovel that you see here, it was an aftermarket component from 6-scale Icons. The component features a turned dowel wooden handle, a white metal shovel head, as well as the kit also came with a functional German AFV photo etch brass latch. The latch is in pieces and needs to be assembled to the state that you see here, and the set comes with two options for the latch. You have the elevated latch, which is used, and a flat latch, which would get mounted flush to the deck of certain vehicles. The set also came with a shovel mount. However, the shovel mount that the kit came with was different than the one that you see here. The shovel mount that came with the model is that of the type that typically would be found on German tanks, as opposed to the single blade style shovel mount that is found on this 222 model. The one that you see here is made out of sheet metal that was pressed and shaped into shape, and for the mounting was all done via micro fasteners. The shovel simply mounts on to the armor car's body, and then the clamp locks everything down firmly in place. It's important to note that 6-scale Icons is no longer in business due to the passing of the company's owner. However, the components were picked up by the company Field of Armor. Field of Armor's link is listed in the video listing below, to which I believe these components may still be in production. Also, moving along, the top deck takes us to the small little tarpaulin hooks, which are seen on the surface of the 222 armored car's body. They are a mirror image on the opposite side of the model, and on the rear there are two small little clasps which are identical in shape to the ones found on the side of the hull. As for the number and location, this is taken directly from the Littlefield vehicle. They are fabricated out of blocks of styrene as well as bent wire to form the little footman loops. Also added to the model are that of the flush-fitting slot screw fasteners. The slot screw fasteners that you see here are added in the same manner that they are in the rest of the model. They are real fasteners which are really countersunk into the model's body panels. Their location and spacing is taken directly from reference photographs from, again, the Littlefield vehicle, as well as some other noteworthy resources. The fasteners that you see on this plate here are only found on this side of the 222. They are absent on the reverse side. However, the other two mounting fasteners found on this plate here are a direct mirror image on the opposite side of the model. One other small bit of detailing that was added to the model, in which completes the hull, is that of this box, which is located here on the side doors. The 222 armor car has two of these boxes, one on each side of the vehicle, and it's a mirror image. The box that you see here is a new resin component from EastCoastArmory.com. The boxes sold in a set of 2, enough parts to complete one vehicle. Now the only difference between the components is that they are side specific, in that the strip of fasteners over here is located towards the front of the vehicle, and this is also found on the opposite side. The ECA kit is all resin. It's non-functional. It comes with the latch, the angle brace, the fasteners, as well as a piece of hinge, which is found on the lower portion of the box. Once fully mounted and painted, it really helps the look and completes the look of the armor car's hull. The box itself is mounted to the real armor car with that of these 2 L braces, which are on the real armor car, welded to the door, and then the braces mount to the box with that of 2 hex head fasteners. This is also found on the bottom as well, and again is a mirror image on the opposite side of the model. As for what the actual purpose of these components are, that I am unsure of. However, if anyone out there watching this video does know what these parts are for, feel free to write that down in the comment section listed below. With the last of the hull details now completed, the last of the fabrication needed for the model is that of the grenade grills, which will be mounted to the turret. With the grills completed, the model will be 100% complete and ready for painting. More information on that detailing is to follow in a future upcoming video. And with that, that concludes this project update video for this 1/6 scale German SDKFZ 222 armored car. If you like this video, stop by and like us on Facebook. And don't forget to check out eastcoastarmory.com for more 1/6 and 1/16 scale builds and detail components. Thank you.